effective reps and training to failure, reps in reserve, RPE. Do you need to train to failure and all these things like that? So there's a meta-analysis that came out, and the takeaway from this was that when people were asked to select a weight for 10 reps, they chose something that was roughly 50% of their 1 rep max, which means that they're training entirely too light. And I'm here to tell you why that doesn't matter. And so, yes, in a study, people came into a research lab, had to select a weight that they could do for 10 reps, and then it turns out that they were capable of doing more than that. So they undertrained. That's a very artificial scenario. When was the last time you went into a lab to be observed by a researcher and you were asked to select a weight for 10 reps? And what do you think your accuracy would be if that was what you were doing? Like, hey, how much do you think you can lift today? The thing is, no one trains like that. So these studies are completely useless. Like, this is dumb. Like, this is not add anything to the current body of literature that's actually helpful to you. And so I'm going to point out to you that you should train too light. You should do that. Take a look at Ed Cohn. You guys can go ahead and buy Ed's book. You can, what is it? There's a book, I think it's Andy Bolton and Ed Cohn wrote a book together called like Dynamite Deadlift or something like that, or Deadlift Dynamite. And there's programs in there. And Ed trained too light. But did he? No, he didn't. And you'll take a look at something like Wendler 531, and what you're going to do is you take 90% of your 1 rep max, and that's now your training max, and then you're going to do 70% of that, so it's even less, and that's a set of 5. Wait, what? That's way too light. Yeah, it is. And here's why it doesn't matter. So week 1, you take 50% of your 1 rep max, and you do 10 reps. Okay. So what? Because the next week, you're going to either do 11 reps with that same weight, or you put 5 pounds on the bar. So let's just pretend in a hypothetical scenario, you're capable of lifting 200 pounds, and so you choose 100 pounds for 10 reps. Okay, that's week 1. And you're saying, oh, that's too light. It doesn't matter. Week 2, you're going to do 105 pounds. Week 3, you're going to do 110 pounds. Week 4, you're doing 115 pounds. Week 5, right, we're already up to 120 pounds. Each week you add 5 pounds and do 10 reps, 5 pounds, 10 reps, 5 pounds, 10 reps. And eventually, you're doing, 200 pounds, your previous 1 rep max, for 10 reps. Now, I'm not saying that this is a perfectly linear approach. It isn't. Nothing is ever perfectly linear. You may find that for 2 weeks in a row, you're stuck at 150 pounds for 10 reps. And so you know what you do at that point? You deload. And so you take a couple steps back and you say, okay, I'm going to start over at like 135 for 10, and then 140 for 10, and then 145 for 10, and then you get back to that 150 for 10. It feels super easy. So the next week you go to 155 for 10, and magically it goes up. Because why? Because you deloaded. You took a step back, you let your body recover, let your body do what's called super compensation. And that's how people actually train. So, like, oh my gosh, you picked a weight that was too light in a single session. Who cares? And alternatively, we could go with the rep model. So, week 1, you do 5 sets of 10. Week 2, you do, 5 sets of 12. And then you do 5 sets of 15, and then you do 5 sets of 18, and then you do 5 sets of 20, and next thing you know, you're now doing 20 reps with a weight that you were previously only doing 10 reps with. You could even do the set model. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Week 1, you do 3 sets of 10. Week 2, you do 4 sets of 10. Week 3, you do 5 sets of 10. And then you increase the weight by 5 pounds, so step loading, huh? And you increase the weight by 5 pounds, you drop back to 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10, 5 sets of 10, increase the weight by 5 pounds, 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10, 5 sets of 10, same progression. No matter where you start, it doesn't fucking matter. It really doesn't. You're going to increase the weight over time. Hence, eventually, you're going to be doing nothing but effective reps. You're going to increase the number of reps over time. Eventually, you will be training to failure. And then if you look at really smart periodization, you're not going to train like that for a long time anyways. So like you look at someone like Richard Hawthorne, I recommend you look him up, strongest man in the world, pound for pound. And it's like his first week is sets of 10, his like second week is like sets of 8, then he's doing like sets of 5, and then he's doing sets of 3, and then he's like doing singles and doubles, and each week is progressively harder, so he's going heavier and doing fewer reps. Sound familiar? It's kind of like if you took 5-3-1 and you said, okay, week 1 I'm going to do all 5s, week 2 I'm going to do all 3s, and week 3 I'm going to do all singles. And then you deload and you start back over 5s, then 3s, then 1s. That's not the way that 5-3-1 is written. I'm sure you're aware of 5-3-1. Like you actually do a set of 5, a set of 3, and then a set of 1. But the point being that there's a progression to this. And so each week you're lifting heavier and doing fewer reps in that final set, right? And I'm saying you could just do 5s on week 1, 3s on week 2, and singles on week 3, and then restart. Oh, but the next time you come back to 5s, you're going to go a little heavier than you did before. So maybe it's another 5 pounds, maybe it's another 10 pounds. That's what progressive overload is. And so I know there are people out there who are arguing against it. I think Mike Israetel did a video talking about why getting stronger won't make you bigger, because progressive overload doesn't work. But when you look at these guys, I don't care if it's Jay Cutler or if it's Ed Cohn, they did progressive overload and it did work. Ronnie Coleman did progressive overload and it did work. But let's forget that. Let's go with people who are even just drug-free lifters. We'll look back at the lifters who got strong long before drugs even existed. You have Arthur Saxon, Eugen Sandow, Robert Fine, who won a gold medal at the Olympics. It's progressive overload. Every time, it's just progressive overload. So, this week I'm going to do 125 pounds, and I'm going to squat it for a set of, 10. And next week I'm going to do 135 for a set of 10. Again, this is nowhere near what I could max out. This is nowhere near my 10 rep max even. But the next week I'm going to do 145 for a set of 10. And then I'm going to do 155 for a set of 10. And then I'm going to do 165 for a set of 10. And then 185 for a set of 10. You see where this is going? This is very simple. And eventually I'm going to get up to, say, 255 for a set of 10. And that really will be my 10 rep max. And when I get there, it's going to be so unbelievably hard that the following week I'm going to go for 265 for a set of 10. I'm only going to get like 8 reps, and I'm going to have to lower it down to the pins. That's why you squat in a power rack. Yes, use the safety pins. Do not get stapled to the floor. And so you only get 8 reps at 265, and you say, oh man, that was too much. You have 2 options at that point. Now you start doing 5s and work your way up, or you could take a drop back and be like, you know what, I'm going to go back down to 225 for a set of 10 and then build back up again. It's just a basic progression. Like, you already know this. The point that I'm illustrating here is that these studies, once again, don't actually tell you anything about training. Like, they're so useless. Every time you see these studies and it's like, well, people underestimate their weight in a single session. It's like, yeah, tell me about where they are at in 12 weeks. If you are pushing to get that one more rep each workout, you're trying to get one more rep, or each workout you're trying to get 5 more pounds, you are going to make progress. It really is that simple. It's, gosh, people want this stuff to be really complex. They want it to be really complicated, and you can't make it any more simple than Dante Trudel telling you to beat the logbook. So if last week you did leg extensions with 200 pounds and you got 33 reps, this week, fight like hell for that 34th rep. Like, it's really that simple. Or put 5 pounds on and try to do 30 reps with 5 pounds heavier or 10 pounds heavier. If you're constantly fighting to either use a heavier weight or get more reps, you are going to make progress, because that is the basic principle of progressive overload. And we can take this and apply it to running. This week, I ran X amount of, meters in 10 minutes. Next week, I'm going to try to beat that, even just by 1 meter. Okay, that's how I do my runs now. I just run for 10 minutes. And what I do is I run down the road, and I actually pay attention to the telephone poles and the electrical boxes and, the stop signs, etc. And each time I go for a run for 10 minutes, it's the same 10-minute run every day. But from 1 week to the next, I try to run just a little further. It might just be 10 meters further, but each week I try to run just a little further than I did the one before. By definition of the fact that I'm covering more distance in the same amount of time, I must be getting faster. Alternatively, you could say I'm going to run a mile, and the first week you run that mile in 10 minutes, and then the next week you try to run that mile in 9:50, and then you try to run it in 9:40, and you just keep chipping away at it each week, pushing a little harder, just trying to beat yourself by a couple seconds even. Because whether or not you think about it this way, and lots of people are unsatisfied with progress, which I think you should always be satisfied with progress. If you did 10 push-ups and now you get 11, you just made a PR. That's a PR. Celebrate it. If you ran a mile in 10 minutes and 4 seconds, and tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, because I suppose you went backs out 2 days in a row, but the next time you do it, you'd run it in 10 minutes and 2 seconds, that's still a PR. You made progress. If you bench press 225 and now you bench press 227.5 because you got those little change plates, that's still a PR. You still beat your previous self. Small PRs are still PRs. Big PRs are still PRs. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 1,308 pounds. I feel like that's what Brian Carroll squatted. Hey, if he comes back and squats 1,310 pounds, that's still a PR, okay? You can win a competition or set a world record by 1 pound. If you run the 100 meters 1/100th of a second faster, it's a world record. That's a PR, Even small increments are wins. You should revel in that. So my point being to you, rather than focusing on some stupid study and telling people you're not doing enough reps, it doesn't matter, because each week they're either going to add 5 pounds or they're going to try to do one more rep. And that is the secret to long-term progress. It is your effort level to keep trying to strive for improvement.